So as she said, my name is Taylor Anderson. I work as a graphic designer in the creative services department on the campus. But in my spare time, what little spare time I have, I actually am a published author. I published my first book of poetry called The Forest last year. And I've also been published in many different literary journals, and actually been published in the campus's Starburst magazine as well. So.
And she's come to this when we had the club.
Yes.
She came and read the poetry before she became famous.
Yes. Again, very debatable. And that's why I'm hoping, with this first meeting, that will eventually lead to like the talent show, the open mics again, because I would also love to participate in those. But I'm actually in the process of finishing up my second book, and I'm writing a third and fourth right now. So very little spare time, but what I do try to write. I've been writing since I was a kid. And I actually developed this workshop in response to being asked to speak for the Curious Mind Speaker series that John Barr hosts. And I did that last year virtually, and it's got a lot of great response. So Darlene asked if I might be interested in, when this club was relaunched, to do a version of that workshop in person, so here I am. And the workshop itself, it's very loose and free. I mean, we call it a poetry workshop, but it's not really. So it's really, if you have an angry memo to your boss you want to write, inspired by it, that's perfectly fine. It's a loose writing workshop. So I'm really looking forward to showing you guys, and hopefully you guys come up with something you like. So all right. So it's actually funny that you mentioned that. So I'm going to provide, hopefully not ramble too much, but provide a little backstory on how I wrote this. And it's funny that you mentioned kind of that piecemeal writing technique. Is back in late 2019, and typically the way I write, my brain is a bit scattered. So I'll come up with just random phrases in my head, put them down in my notes app in my phone. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. So in late 2019, I came up, because I work in a print shop where I print out a lot of different invitations, stuff like that, things that you get handouts and stuff at the local events. I ended up with little tiny scraps of paper after I was finishing cutting up some of it, which I had one today, but I don't know where it went. Oh, it's in the book. Like this, very small little scraps of paper. And I thought, what if I write these phrases on here? Throw them in a bowl or a hat or something, draw them out, see what happens. That was late 2019. I started writing poetry based on that. Started writing these random phrases, and they started piling into a bowl, and I'm like, oh, I have stuff here. Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. I started taking these paper slips, throwing them into a hat or a bowl, and had no idea what to do with them, so I started writing poems out of them. I would draw one, draw another, rearrange them in a certain order, see if there was a story there. And I actually started coming up with poems for them. And then I had no idea what to do with the poems. And I had a bunch of little scrap pieces of paper laying around in a bag going, what am I gonna do with these? So, I don't know if any of you guys have taken art classes with a certain professor named Maria Mori. She is a fine arts professor here at Kingwood. She is right down the hall from me. So I came up to her. She was my former professor, and I've collaborated with her on many different gallery exhibitions for video. I said, Mari, I got these paper slips. I don't know what to do with them, but I've got some ideas. She said, I'm picturing a forest. We can bring all these paper slips together. We can build like a tree, or we can pin them to, like fish netting on the wall. She came up with ideas immediately. So this book that I published last year in April started out as an art exhibition that exhibited as a piece called The Branches at Houston Community College. This was right before the pandemic hit. And during that time, because we all had a lot of downtime, so we all had a lot of downtime during the pandemic. I was like, I got all these poems that I've made out of this weird writing technique. I'm gonna write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. Let's write a book. Let's see if there's something there. Thus, this book came forward. So, when I was asked to create some sort of workshop, some sort of interactive talk for the John Barr series, for the Curious Mind series, I thought I could use this technique and we could see what comes out of it. Now, When I wrote the book, I would literally draw one after another and rearrange these in a certain order to come up with a poem. I kind of got away from from that and started breaking my own rules, because these phrases can inspire a lot of different things. So we advertise this as a poetry workshop, but really it can be anything you want, because as long as this inspires something in you, that's all that matters. So when I held the workshop last year, there was people coming out with song lyrics. It's a good thing a lot of you guys are music majors. They were coming out with song lyrics. There's people coming out with prose, poems. There was probably love letters and angry memos coming out of it. I don't know, some people didn't share. But the idea is that whatever I draw from this, if it inspires something in you, use it. Write it down. When I wrote my book, I would typically go verbatim of what this phrase was. And these are all phrases that come from my head, randomly, that I wrote down randomly, threw it in a bowl, forgot about it. You don't have to keep to that. There's even one word in here that inspires something, use it, break it apart, do whatever you want with it. I don't have rules with this. As long as this inspires something, that's all that matters. So, how I structured the workshop and how I'm going to structure this one. 5-minute timer. I draw one of these slips. I usually have it in a bowl, but I forgot the bowl today, so I just have them scattered on the desk here. I'll pick one at random. I'll give a 5-minute timer based on that phrase, which I'll write here on the board so you guys can read it. Write anything, whatever you want. After 5 minutes comes up, I'll draw another one. And we'll do that, let's say 3-4 times. And if you guys are like, hey, I got something, I want to write more, we'll do it another time. I do want to give the chance, if you guys want to share, you are not required to, but if you guys do want to share, I do want to give some time at the end that if you want to share with the class, you can, or if you have questions for me, you'll also have the time to do that as well. But if not a big deal. So this is a free and loose exercise. Do with it what you want. And also, if you want to write a bunch of separate pieces based on each phrase, or if you want to write one big long piece that incorporates or is inspired by all of these, do whatever you want. There's no rules here. Just as long as you write something. Could be this phrase, and then you get inspired with something else later on. That's perfectly fine. Just write something. And hopefully, my weird random meanderings here will inspire something. So, any questions before we start? I'm getting a thumbs up over here. We're cool. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what you guys do, because a lot of you are music majors. I know that is sometimes a point of confusion and contention with some music people, where lyrics, you guys think more in music than you do in lyrics. So having that combination between someone who's more a writer, I'm useless at music, but I can write for you. So having that back and forth, I think that would be pretty interesting to see what you guys come up with. So I'm gonna go and turn up the volume on my cell phone, because I have the Google timer pulled up here. Make sure I've got the volume correct. Oh, that's dramatic enough. Okay, that should work. So I've got 5 minutes, and let's draw the first phrase and see what happens. And typically what I like to do is I will keep track of the timer, but I like to write with you guys too, because some of these I haven't even used for myself before. So these actually came from my personal stash. The last workshop I did, they were actually phrases from the book itself. These are all random ones that I haven't even looked at, so. Ooh, okay, that's a dramatic one to start out with. The phrase is, it will all end eventually. It will all end eventually, and I'll write it on the board here for you guys. So the 5-minute timer is starting now. All right, so Mr. Moose over there is laughing, so how did that feel? Did you come up with something, even if it's just a little bit of something? Okay. So let's draw the second one. Let me reset my little timer here. Let's see what we got. Let's shuffle it around. Dominoes. Let's see. What are you? Breathe in your dream. And some of these are a little esoteric and weird, because that's the way my brain works. So good luck. All right, so second round of that. You Have some of you been like doing all one piece, or you guys been doing kind of separate pieces? How's it been going? Okay, I'm getting double, separate. Okay, so everybody's taking a little bit of different approach. So for each line, you can actually combine them all into one if you want. You can do one piece that includes influences from both lines. You can write separate pieces for each line. You can do it a number of different ways. I'm curious to see how everybody's approach is. So I was thinking of doing one more because I just realized it is 104. So and the club meeting, I believe, ends at 120 if I recall right. So I figure we'll do one more, and that'll give time for people that want to share closing remarks. You know how the drill goes. So little music, if you would like to join. I feel like you and I need to sit down and talk and collaborate or something. Two different mindsets coming together and create something. So, all right, so say it one more time, and then we'll see where we stand and see who wants to share. Sound good? All right. One more final draw here from my random pile of slips. What are you? Give me a harbor. Harbor. A harbor is like where a ship will dock.
So it doesn't also mean like to like hold something?
You can also harbor something, yes. It's a kind of a protective. You could probably define it a bit better than I could. But yes, you can provide a harbor for someone. It's kind of a shelter, a safe place.
Yeah, so like if you think of a storm being, a ship being out in a storm coming into the harbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it has multiple meanings to it. Absolutely. Whatever inspires in you. Give me a harbor. And the timer is starting now. Absolutely, and that's what I wanted from this is, I know that can be a point of frustration for a lot of people because, one, when you're coming from a music background, a lot of times, it has to rhyme because that has to reach a certain rhythm. When it comes to poetry, you don't have to rhyme. Like, very little of what I write actually rhymes anymore because I came from that mindset of, it has to rhyme, that's what a poem is. And once I realized like prose poetry exists, blackout poetry, there's a lot of different forms of poetry in the ways that it can manifest. Once I realized that, I kind of freed myself up to those different kinds of forms, and then it would start kind of permeating into fiction writing and that kind of thing. So that's what I wanted to do with this workshop was everybody's different in terms of how that kind of stuff comes out, how that creativity and that imagination comes out. I certainly did not want it to limit it to where you have to do a poem and you have to do it my way. No. Everybody's creativity manifests in different ways, and sometimes it'll be a short story, sometimes it'll be a poem, sometimes it'll be lyrics. But if it inspires something and gets you to put something down on paper, that's what matters, because that'll get that flowing. And that's sometimes the hardest part, staring at that blank page and looking at it and going, oh God, what am I gonna do with this? I have no idea. I've stared at it too many times, go into writer's block, and I'm sitting there going, I can't write anything, I don't have anything. Something like this, quick draw from a bowl. Oh, I have something now. That's all it takes sometimes for most people. Oh yeah, shower. Oh my God. I literally, on Amazon, there is a thing called shower notes that I purchased. You can get a pack of 4 of them, and they have like little suction cups on the back, and they're waterproof notes. Because I get away from everything, my husband and all that stuff. When I'm in the shower, I'm by myself, and my brain goes into overdrive and goes, hey, I got some ideas. Here, write it down. When you're in the shower, you don't have anything to write down. So I got these shower notes, and all it is pencil on these waterproof notes. And I'll sometimes come out ripping pages off and going, I've got ideas, I've got ideas. It never fails. It's always when I get away from the distracting husband and the distracting dog and all that stuff. When I get time to myself, I'm sitting there just like, I got ideas. So So yeah, it's different for everybody, you know, and certainly don't want to do anything to discourage it, because I know when you're submitting to like literary journals and stuff, a lot of times they can be very astringent about what they ask for, and sometimes they're looking for specific things to where, oh, you need to, you know, write a poem or short story incorporating these 5 words, and we'll only accept stuff that incorporates these 5 words. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that and do something worthwhile, because you're putting me in too narrow a box. These words don't mean anything to me. But they're just like, hey, submit something with this general theme, maybe, or an open theme, which is my preference. Then I can usually work with something like that. So that's absolutely the thing I wanted to do with this workshop whenever I performed it, was keep it open, keep it free. Again, if it manifests in the form of a letter that you always wanted to write and that you never had the guts to write down, great. At least you wrote something down. Because that's the goal. Not quite yet. So, and it manifests in different ways. You know, like this, you know, I was writing down random phrases. It manifested into an art exhibition. That's actually a full-fledged art exhibition that's going to premiere at Bosque Gallery at the Sci-Fair campus later this year. We're hoping to bring it to Kingwood, but we haven't gotten organized enough yet for it. So it's going to be a full-fledged art exhibition. I didn't know that when I was writing phrases down on pieces of paper and throwing them in a bowl. I had no clue. But creativity can lead to many different things as long as you don't restrict it. It manifests in so many different ways for different people. So that's why I was hoping maybe I could do that with you guys, especially considering your music majors. And I know a lot of times lyrics is the hardest part of the whole thing. So different ways of thinking. So anyway, I will stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for giving me your time. And I really appreciate you guys sharing. So if you guys do have any questions, I'll hang around, because I really want to see what you're doing. But yeah, if you guys...
I almost want to just take some time to write it down. I'll save that for next time.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
I'll take a second to get
Please.
So you're a picture writer?
I am. I'm working on stuff.
Genre?
Everything. I'll do a little bit of everything. I write contemporary fiction. I've had a couple of short stories. I've had one of my first publications was a horror short story.
That's what I was asking about the book. The book kind of scary. That's why I wanted to know.
Oh no. I mean, if you want to take a look at it, you can. It's the kind of collating theme to all of this is kind of a journey through humanity. But I don't like to say that because the poems are very ambiguous, intentionally so. 1, because they were randomly assembled, and 2, because a lot of people have come up with a lot of different interpretations about the poems in the book. I've had one of my best friends read it and said, it came off as really political to me, and I'm going, what? That wasn't intentional at all, but okay, if that's how you interpreted it, great. You got something out of it. Everybody has come up with vastly different things. Some people said this is a trick through humanity. Some people said I would read this at a coffee shop with a cappuccino. I'm going, okay, cool. I mean, it doesn't sound political to me, but okay. It's different things to different people. Now, not necessarily that case when it's a short horror story, but for poetry, it can be ambiguous like that. It can mean different things to different people. But to answer your questions, right now I'm actually writing a short story collection, and a lot of it is kind of based romance, but it actually has kind of a overarching theme of basically unrealized love and unrealized affection. So I'm writing that now, and then I had an idea for a short story that's now turning into a romance novel separately. My mind's all over the place. And then I have my second book, a full poetry collection, because what that there in the literary world is classified as a chapbook. It's shorter than a full collection. So I have my second book right now, which is actually talks about me finding home here in Houston and what my past life was when I lived on the other side of Texas. And that's right now actually pitched to a publisher, quote, dream publisher. Fingers crossed something good happens with that. So yeah, I've got a lot of things in the works, but honestly, I write fan fiction. Like, it manifests in so many different ways. I'll just follow the lead and see where it goes. And like right now, I love the game series Mass Effect. It's been a huge inspiration for a lot of my stories. It doesn't necessarily manifest in sci-fi, but a lot of the characters have been inspiring to me. So I'll write anything if it's gets my creativity out.